The objectives of this video is to list the pioneers of early editing, give examples of different techniques of editing, and describe continuity and surreal editing styles. Definition of editing. Editing means taking the footage you have filmed from the production process and putting it all in order, adding effects, adding colour, correction, etc. This process is always in the post-production process. The kinetograph was invented by Thomas Edison and William Dixon in 1890. The kinetograph worked by taking many different photos and playing them really fast to show the illusion of movement. There was no editing back then, but it's nice to know how motion pictures started. First cuts. In the early 1900s, filmmakers realised they could glue and cement pieces of film together, so if you had multiple scenes you could just cut the scenes and cement them in order that you wanted, and that's how editing really began. Film soon include colour, close-ups, wipe, transitions and special effects. Moviola. The moviola was invented by Ewan Serruria in 1924. This was the world's first successful editing machine. The first video recorder. The first video recorder was invented by Ampex in 1956. The first video recorder is released allowing television to be recorded and edited using magnetic tape. Electronic editors. The electronic editor was also invented by Ampex in 1961. The Ampex electronic editor makes it possible to edit film without physical cutting. Edit Droid. The Edit Droid was invented by Lucasfilm in 1984. It was a computer workstation which uses multiple analog laser discs, allowing random access editing. Editing software. Editing software was made by many different companies, for example Adobe and Apple, e.g. Avid, Premiere Pro and Final Cut X. Editing software is the easiest form of editing. Conclusion. Editing and editing softwares have changed throughout the last 100+ years. It has developed from being unedited and very short with no cuts, to being edited on a digital platform. Editing has moved on from being linear to being non-linear. Linear editing. Linear editing is a video editing process of selecting, arranging and modifying images, sound and video in an ordered sequence. Nonlinear editing. Nonlinear editing is a method that allows you to access any frame in a digital video clip, regardless of sequence in the clip. This allows you to use a cut and paste method and allows you to easily include fades, transitions and other effects that cannot be achieved with linear editing. Lumiere Brothers. The Lumiere Brothers were some of the first filmmakers, but they did not do much real film editing. They used static shots. They created the cinematograph, which is a motion picture film camera which also serves as a film projector and printer. It was created in the 1890s. George Mills. George Mills was one of the first cinemagicians experimenting in special effects and focusing on building narratives, so he was one of the first filmmakers to really put a story together by using editing. Edwin S. Porter and D.W. Griffith. I'm talking about these two together because they both use cross-cutting and parallel editing, but in two very different ways. Edwin S. Porter was the first person to use cross-cutting technique, and he only used it to show two scenes at once, to enhance the movie drama and maybe even to enhance the flow of his movie. To give it a more dramatic feel, he didn't use the cross-cutting technique to its full advantage though. That's where D.W. Griffith comes in with his own version of technique. D.W. Griffith got his idea of cross-cutting from Edwin S. Porter by improving it and having a more hands-on approach to it. Edwin didn't do that much with the concept of cross-cutting, but Griffith did. He took it and used it to its full advantage. Edwin's was very effective, but Griffith's was more effective because it's faster and the cuts were more fluent and really enhanced the pace. Edwin's did the same pace-wise, but Griffith was better because we got to see the tenseness of a scene and its importance. La Nouvelle Vogue. La Nouvelle Vogue was an important man when it came to editing because he invented a whole new editing style. He broke every rule editing had. For example, he broke the 180-degree rule and he also did jump cuts. Surprisingly, these were effective. Time. Timing in movies are important because you can slow time down, speed time up, add a flashback, flash forward and many more. With time you can make your movie better because you can affect the pace in a way. As long as it is relevant to the movie. Time is also important because when you're editing, sometimes you have to stick to a certain time limit, and with editing you can cut a movie down to that time limit. Rhythm and pace. In editing, an editor has to take pace into consideration. The pace is important depending on the movie. You could build up the pace. For example, in an action movie, you could have a slow pace that builds up to a fast-paced action scene at the end. It is all down to the movie. Space. Space is important when editing because then the audience gets a rough look at where the characters are, how far away they are, and more. Editors can make the space between the characters close or as far away as they want. It all depends on how they edit them.